Hello, 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 everyone, and welcome back to the Purveyor in Fallout 76, where today we're taking a trip to see Mama Mumbles with Old Man McRib. It's been a while since he's cashed in any Scrip, so he could use a new walking cane. We'll see what we get there. So we'll do a few melee weapons, we'll do a few ranged weapons, and see how things go. As always, if you enjoy videos like this and you want to see more, be sure to go ahead and subscribe, hit the like button, leave a comment. There's always a lot more to come on the channel. Without further ado, let's jump on in and see how we do today. And our first roll of the day on a 3-star melee weapon is Mutant Slayer's Knuckles with damage to super mutants, limb damage, and 90% reduced weight. So yeah, Mutant Slayer's effect, highly situational. There are a lot more situations where you'll use a Mutant Slayer's effect than other things, so daily ops with super mutants, farming West Tech, etc., etc. Unfortunately, for unarmed builds, the Knuckles are a little bit underpowered compared to most other weapons you get, and there isn't really a trade-off for that. It would be one thing if they were less power than a Power Fist, but also were faster, and they're just not. So that's kind of disappointing. Limb damage on a melee weapon, not super useful. 90% reduced weight doesn't hurt, but you're probably running martial artist, so you've already reduced the weight of those weapons significantly. You know what, maybe it's better to do 2 stars on melee weapons. I can't really think of a single 3rd star on a melee weapon that I can't live without, so let's get some extra rolls. Alright, good, we get some extra rolls so that we can get more great stuff like this nocturnal board with limb damage. Because that's what everybody's coming to you for, Mama Mumbles. What are you thinking here, handing out garbage like this? This literally looks like something you pulled out of a trash can. I gave you Scrip for trash can weapons? Come on now, Mama Mumbles, you can do better than this. Nocturnal board, very disappointing. The nocturnal effect is just terrible. Yes, your damage increases at night, but it's not constant. It increases the later into the night you get. So you only maximize it for a very brief period of time, and you take a negative hit to your damage during the day, so not a good trade-off. Limb damage, again, not super useful on a melee weapon. I guess it would be on this because you're going to do terrible damage with it, and maybe you can at least cripple your enemies so you can run away from them. But yeah, maybe we get better here, and we do. We get a little better here. All right, an anti-armor sickle with swing speed. So I still firmly believe that swing speed is the best effect you can get on a melee weapon. Increasing the DPS of the melee weapon, being able to make follow-up hits faster, is going to be more important and more useful than almost anything else you can get on a melee weapon. Especially since One Wasteland, where the primary legendary effects are all so much more balanced than they once were. With that said, the anti-armor effect, not a bad one to have. Once again, though, you're probably running Incisor with a melee build, so you're already ignoring a lot of armor, so the returns on this are going to be diminishing. Let's see what else we can get. Next up, we've got, oh, that's better. Okay, an instigating pickaxe with 40% faster swing speed. So again, swing speed, super important. It's not a true stack with martial artist, but you definitely notice the difference when even if you have martial artist and a swing speed weapon, especially if it's a slower weapon like this one. You're going to be able to swing it pretty quickly, which is very efficient. The instigating effect, while it was nerfed a few months back, it's not bad on a higher damage weapon. The key to it is it basically doubles your base damage when the target's full health, so if you have a weapon with high base damage, then you're going to see a more significant effect with that than, say, a 10mm pistol that has very low base damage. So this is not a bad one. Swing speed is going to help. Double damage when target's full health is definitely going to help. This is an interesting weapon to get, and yeah, 2 stars is the way to go here. What other stars would we have gotten? Reduced weight? It only weighs 1 pound. We're already good. And next up, we've got some more garbage. Okay, an Exterminator's Mr. Handy Buzzblade with damage to Mirelurks and bugs and limb damage. So, limb damage could potentially be a little bit useful with a weapon like this, just because it's such a low damage weapon, and slowing down our enemies might be very useful. But yeah, Exterminators, highly situational effect. You're not going Mirelurkin bug hunting very often, and when you do, chances are you're not bringing a Mr. Handy Buzzblade to do it. So, it's a shame. This is a fun weapon. It's a unique Fallout weapon. I'd like to see them able to do a little more damage and be maybe a little more useful, but alas, we have what we have. Let's move along. And we're moving along to a Ghoul Slayer's Revolutionary Sword with 40% more power attack damage. So, Ghoul Slayers, of course, is another situational effect. Not the most desirable, but not the worst. If you happen to just really enjoy farming Whitespring and other ghoul locations and events that involve ghouls, then maybe you get some mileage out of a weapon like this, especially with more power attack damage. I can imagine with a decent melee build, running through Whitespring and being able to one-shot the ghouls in there with power attacks. So that could be useful. It could be worth keeping around. At only 1.2 pounds with Martial Artist, it's easy to hold on to melee weapons like this, and that's one of the benefits of a melee build in Fallout 76 is you can have a lot of variety. Because your weapons weigh so little with that perk, you can keep all kinds of goofy stuff and run around with it. So there's definitely some advantages to that, and I can imagine this hanging around on somebody's character for limited use scenarios. All right, we're going to do one more melee weapon, then we'll jump to ranged, and for this one we've got Executioner's Knuckles with 50% limb damage. So here, the Executioner's effect, I like the Executioner's effect. Doesn't do a whole lot for you on regular run-of-the-mill enemies that you're killing in 1 or 2 hits anyway, but when you get to tougher things like Scorch Beasts, like Behemoths, like bosses, even super mutants when you're talking about something like Knuckles where you're going to have to hit them 3 or 4 or 5 times to kill them, then you can definitely see a return on that. Unfortunately, our secondary effect is limb damage, so once again, don't love limb damage on melee weapons. Realistically, you're killing your targets in 1 or 2 shots anyway, so maybe 3 or 4, but either way, you're killing them quickly. Limb damage isn't doing a whole lot for you. Really doesn't do a whole lot for you on ranged weapons either, but on melee weapons, it's especially useless. These with swing speed would have been awesome. Let's switch over to ranged weapons now and see what we've got today. Come on, Mama Mumbles. All right, so we've got a Junkie's Fat Man with VATS hit chance and 90% reduced weight. And I'm going to make a controversial statement here. This is one of the best types of Fat Man you can get. Not because of Junkies, not because of VATS hit chance, but because of 90% reduced weight. With that effect on there, this weapon only weighs 2 pounds, which actually makes it useful. With the Fat Man and mini nukes, the ammo is so heavy, the weapons are so heavy, they're impossible to carry around, you're so easy to kill yourself with them, you're not going to build around the Fat Man. The Fat Man, historically in Fallout, has been a weapon that you get your hands on briefly, do something crazy with, have a little bit of ridiculous fun with, and then move on to something else. The 90% reduced weight legendary perk allows us to do that. You can take this weapon, you can carry it on you very easily when it only weighs 2 pounds. When you happen to stumble upon a couple of mini nukes as you're going about your business, you can pull this weapon out, use them, have a little bit of ridiculous Fallout fun, and then put the weapon away until you get some more mini nukes. That's where this is fun. The Junkies effect is secondary, but it's a good one. With Junkies here, you do more damage if you're a Junkie. Well, I'm not going to build for this weapon, but maybe I'm a Junkie Stealth Commando. So if I'm that, then this is a fun little secondary weapon. VATS hit chance doesn't hurt to have, but realistically, you're probably not using this weapon in VATS. Its performance in VATS is more than a little strange, to be perfectly honest. But let's move along here. What else do we have? Now, this one's interesting. All right, we've got a Furious Assault Rifle with 25% faster fire rate and 90% reduced weight again. So here, 90% reduced weight, not as useful because we're going to put mods on this weapon. And once we do, that's going to increase its weight. But we're still going to save some carry weight with it. So that's a good thing. Faster fire rate on an assault rifle is pretty awesome. I enjoy that. I like the assault rifle. I like the feel of it. I like the way that it sounds, the way that it operates. And putting a little bit more fire rate on it just makes it feel that much more efficient. The great things about the assault rifle, low recoil, great hipfire accuracy, super fast reload. The downside, not really high damage. That's where this Furious Assault Rifle becomes interesting. The Furious effect on most commando weapons is basically lost. On a fixer or a handmade, if you're a stealth commando, you're killing your target in 1 or 2 shots. Even with this weapon, you're probably killing your target in 1 or 2 shots if you're making headshots. But not always. For Furious to max out that damage, you need to land 5 shots. So here, with a lower damage weapon, we have a higher probability of actually using that effect. So where Furious is interesting on those other weapons, it's not as useful. It's more useful on a weapon like this by essentially kind of bringing it up a little bit. By increasing its damage, it brings it a little more on par with some of those other weapons. So if you really enjoy the way the assault rifle feels and you like using it, then this makes that more realistic, if that makes any sense whatsoever. All right, that's a good one. What else do we have? A Zealot's Radium Rifle, again with faster fire rate and 250 damage resistance while reloading. So the Zealot's effect, highly situational. Not one of my favorite situational effects, especially not on a radium rifle where these enemies are going to be resistant to radiation anyway. But overall, extra damage to Scorched. If you run a lot of Fisher sights, if you run a lot of Queens, then maybe you get a little bit of mileage out of a weapon like this. But there's probably better choices out there. Faster fire rate is always going to increase your DPS on an automatic weapon, so that's not a bad thing to have. And damage resistance while reloading, again, not a bad thing to have. But on commando weapons, the reload's pretty quick, so you're not really getting a whole lot out of that. Let's see what else we've got. Next up, we've got a Berserker's pump-action shotgun with exploding bullets and 50 damage resistance while aiming. So I am not a huge fan of the Berserker's effect. I tried to do that with Old Man McRib early on, and what I found was that the damage boost that I got for weapons that I was actually built for just wasn't very significant. So it's not really a 50% damage increase anymore with the way that everything stacks. So to get just a few more points of damage for the trade-off of not ever wearing armor is just silly. And I know there's folks out there that run Berserker builds with broken armor, and I salute you for making that effort, but again, the little bit of damage increase that you get for a Berserker's weapon for all that work and all that headache is just not worth it. A bloodied build is super duper easy. So, and you actually do see more damage, where with your Berserker's effect, it's just not there. So is that right? Is that fair? Well, probably not. They really should probably increase the Berserker's damage, but for now, it is what it is. With that said, bullets exploding for area damage, not a bad thing to have. On a shotgun, I do like that. 50 damage resistance while aiming, another not bad thing to have, although with a shotgun, you're probably using it more in VATS or hip firing it, but a little extra DR doesn't hurt anybody. So I like the exploding bullets, I like the 3rd star. The Berserker's effect, I'm just not a fan. I know there's people that are, and if you found a way to make it work for you, then I do indeed salute you, but it's just not for me. Let's move along. All right, we've got 2 more rolls to go, and the next one is a Ghoul Slayer's Cryolator with limb damage again and agility. So, let's see here. On a Cryolator, we've had Cryolators on the channel before, and, you know, to me, the best effect on a Cryolator is quad. Because the reason you use a Cryolator isn't to do damage, it's to freeze your enemies. They're super useful against the Scorch Beast Queen, super useful against the Imposter Sheep Squatch. You can freeze them literally in place, so everyone else can just dump tons of damage on them. So situational effects like Ghoul Slayers that are going to do more damage don't really matter. The goal here isn't for you to do damage, it's for you to freeze the enemy in place so everybody else can do damage. With that said, the secondary effect, limb damage, that's actually useful on a weapon like this. You can switch to different limbs so you can participate in crippling them. So in addition to freezing the target, you can also cripple those limbs so it makes it even harder for it to get away. Not a bad thing. Extra agility is going to give you some more AP, so if you're using this with VATS, that'll help a little bit. But overall, as far as cryolators go, honestly, any cryolator is a pretty good cryolator. They exist for a very specific purpose, and they serve that purpose well. So there are a few legendary effects that are beneficial with these, faster reload being one of them, faster fire rate maybe being one of them, limb damage also potentially, and quad. The rest of them, take what you get. It's a cryolator. It does what it's supposed to do. It freezes things and slows them down. It's not about damage like most other weapons are, so the primary effect doesn't matter as much. And rounding things out, we've got a Suppressor's lever action rifle with VATS critical shots doing more damage and 90% reduced weight. So let's take a look at this one, the Suppressor's effect. Don't love it. And the reason I don't love it is not because it doesn't work well. It works fine. It does in fact do what it says on the box. It reduces your target's damage for 3 seconds. But most of your targets, especially with a weapon like a lever action rifle in the hands of a stealth rifleman who's built properly, your target is not going to live for 3 seconds. So reducing their damage by 20%, not really doing a whole lot. Now maybe you're playing a support role at a boss fight or something, and a weapon like this can be a little bit useful by reducing damage output from the boss, but this just isn't what you're marching to a queen fight or an imposter sheep squatch with. For those, you're going with something that does much higher DPS than this. These are fun weapons to use for general farming. They're effective for that. But for boss battles and big, tough enemies, they're not ideal. Now, what is nice here is the VATS critical shots doing more damage. Chances are, if you are a stealth rifleman character, you've probably got some VATS perks and you're relying on VATS criticals for extra damage. If you build that build right, you can do a critical shot every second or third shot. So extra 50% damage on every second or third shot you make, well, that's not nothing. So don't overlook some of those VATS perks when you see them. They don't look as impressive on paper as Bloodied or Executioners or some of the other big effects do, but there's some value in these VATS perks if you are built for that. 90% reduced weight, doesn't hurt to have it. By the time you mod the weapon, you're going to give up a lot of that, but it still ultimately results in a lighter weapon, which is good. But I'd like to see that be maybe described a little more accurately or have that effect actually apply to the mods we put on the weapon. But it is what it is. We can live with it. So, not the greatest visit ever to Mama Mumbles, but that's okay because the last few we've gotten some really good stuff. So, we can't complain too much. Got a couple of at least mildly interesting things today. We'll see if we get the perfectly preserved pie. Nope, our luck is not with us. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is going to bring this one to a close. As always, if you enjoyed it, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, leave a like, leave a comment, come back for more. There's always a lot more coming on the channel. I do hope I see you next time, and until then, I'm Fisty McRib.